One of the questions we get all the time from people planning an Alaska cruise is, what do I actually do in Ketchikan? And honestly, that's a fair question.
Compared to Juneau with whale watching and glaciers, or Skagway with the White Pass Railway, Ketchikan can feel like the quiet port on the itinerary.
And that's exactly why some people leave disappointed. Not because Ketchikan doesn't have enough to offer, but they just didn't know how to experience it.
Because Ketchikan is different. It isn't about one huge, obvious attraction.
We visited Ketchikan 4 times now, and we've learned that this town rewards people who know where to go.
So in this video, we're going to walk you through how we DIY'd our day in Ketchikan, step by step.
You can take our exact route, change the order, add an excursion, skip a stop, or use it as a starting point to build a Ketchikan day that works best for you.
And if you do want an excursion, we'll share with you the ones we've done, the ones we recommend, and the ones that are still on our list.
And there's one experience that if you skip it, you will probably wish you hadn't.
And we'll get to that in a little bit.
Before we get into our day, there's one thing that you need to check first.
Because there's 2 places you could be coming into town, the downtown docks or Ward Cove. The downtown docks are really close to the shops and things like the Lumberjack show. Ward Cove is a little bit outside of town, so you're going to need to take a shuttle and plan for that extra time, both going into town and then coming back to the ship later.
Many Ketchikan ports of call are short, around 6 hours. So if you're booking an excursion or DIYing the town, you want to pay attention to your all aboard time.
Particularly if you're at Ward Cove and you need to add in that extra time to take the shuttle into town and then back to the ship.
Here on Holland America's Koningsdam, and it docked right downtown. We got there at 11 o'clock with an all aboard of 6:30.
Our first stop was the visitor center where we grabbed this free walking map.
And while we were in there, we both noticed there was a whiteboard and it said the ship time. So on that day, there were 6 different ships that came into Ketchikan. Fortunately, they weren't all there at exactly the same time. There were 3 that got there around 6:30 or 7 and stayed till about noon. And then like our ship and the ships after that, they came in at like 11 or after and stayed till like 6 or 7 o'clock.
In Ketchikan, it rains a lot. They even have a rain gauge right downtown next to the visitor center to show you how much it's rained that year.
This is one town where you want to make sure that you wear layers. So we have been there where, in fact, this time it was nice and sunny, and I walked off the ship with my rain pants and my rain jacket. I was layered up, but we had to pull over and unlayer because it turned out to be a really nice day up until a little bit later. We'll talk about that in a second. So bring that backpack so you can unload your layers if it's getting toasty. With our map in hand, we started at the visitor center here and we headed up the street. And this is where that famous Ketchikan welcome sign is. You want to get a picture with that. And we headed up Mission Street and we went to the first stop, which was this whale park.
Yes. And there you'll find a really cool totem pole. I think it's Chief Ryan's totem pole. And that's just one of many totem poles that you're going to find around Ketchikan.
We didn't get off the ship till 11:30, and by now it's about 12:30, so we're getting hungry. So we headed to the New York Cafe for lunch. Why the New York Cafe?
Well, on one of our previous trips to Ketchikan, we met a local family whose daughter works there. And they said, hey, next time you're here, you should come over to the New York Cafe and check it out. It's great food.
And when we went in, we sat down and we asked, hey, I had a picture of the girl from last time we were there. And I showed it to our waitress. Is this girl still working here? Yes, she is. And she came over and said hi. So we really like that local connection.
It really feels like someplace the locals eat.
Even though this is called a New York Cafe, it's not a New York deli. We split a cod sandwich with French fries. That was delicious. It was good.
It was good food, but the atmosphere and the history were great.
This was our first time to the New York Cafe, and we're going to talk a little bit later in this video about a few other places that we've tried in Ketchikan that you don't want to miss.
Looking at the map, you can see right here on Stedman is the New York Cafe. Right next to it is the entrance to Creek Street, and if you've ever seen a photo of Ketchikan, it was probably taken on Creek Street. Creek Street is visually eye-catching because it's a bunch of colorful buildings on a boardwalk suspended above Ketchikan Creek on pilings.
Its origins are a little bit seedy, meaning that it was once where all the brothels were. So one of the stores or the buildings now is called Dolly's House, and it's been there a long time. And in it's a museum basically documenting that time in history.
Today it's shops and galleries, but if you look through the boardwalk or over the side down into the water, and it's late July or into August, there's a good chance you could see some salmon running.
And if there's salmon, there might be animals that like to eat salmon, like bald eagles and bears and river otters and seals. So on the map, here's Dolly's house.
So from there, you're going to keep walking along Creek Street toward Married Man's Trail. Walking along Creek Street, we came across the Cape Fox Lodge Funicular.
And we were so surprised to see that it was actually running. Last year we saw it and we thought that is never going to run again. So the lodge is up here on the hill. So the funicular just takes you up. And what was the reason why we were so excited to take the funicular?
Eagle's Nest Pizza is up there.
Yes, that's actually where we met the waitress that was at the New York Cafe with her family there last year. It's a very good place, good pizza, and really there are no people from the ships there. It was all locals in there when we went last time. And what's really nice about it is that it has a balcony with a view that looks over at the ship.
Then we went down Married Man's Trail
to go back to the boardwalk, and that is what we talked about a little bit earlier in the video, where we said that it's just, you're in a rainforest. To me, that is the most beautiful, easy to get to place in Alaska.
Right. And that path is cool because it's built into the side of a hill. You're just in dense forest not long after leaving the town, and there's a lot of steps and things built into it.
Yes, just gorgeous. The trees, the ferns, beautiful.
Okay, time to switch maps.
Yes, so now we're going to be looking at the Ketchikan Salmon Walk. Now that you're here on Creek Street, this is perfect because this is like just a nice loop. It takes about an hour and a half to do the whole loop, but we're going to talk about a little shortcut that you can use that we do. So we went here and we did the Married Man's Trail, and then we came back to the path and we went to go see the salmon ladder. Along the way on this salmon walk, you're going to see signs that have salmon on it that get you from one place to the next. Where were we headed? What was the plan?
We were headed towards the Totem Heritage Center. The Totem Heritage Center is all about totem poles. There you're going to encounter a large number of unrestored, preserved 19th century totem poles from around the area.
One of the things that I found super interesting, last year we talked to a docent there and they gave us some of the history of those totem poles. So they didn't used to preserve them. The natives just let them kind of go back to the land. And this was an opportunity that they're taking now to preserve those so they can preserve the history for future generations.
So it wasn't all about totem poles. I remember seeing a canoe and I saw a woman doing some weaving there. What was that all about?
So this woman who was not Tlingit, they offer classes just to pass the tradition down. So she was making, it was a square about this big, and she said it had taken her like 8 months. And I'm like, how often did you work on it? She said about 8 hours a week. And she was saying that some of the larger pieces would take like 8 months, working 40 hours a week. So that was really something to learn about. And, you know, it just kind of made me think about how the Tlingit are trying to preserve and pass along their heritage that kind of got pushed away for so many years. And this was an opportunity to see that in action with her weaving.
Then, right as we were leaving, Ketchikan decided to live up to its reputation.
And luckily, in our backpack, we had our umbrella, so we pulled that out while we waited for a free shuttle that was going to take us to our next stop, which was the
Tongass Historical Museum.
As soon as we walked in to the museum, the first thing I noticed wasn't all the things. The first thing I noticed was a big glass window that overlooked the creek. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, I just could look through that window all day as it looked down on the rushing water of the creek, and it looked across the way at the Married Man's Trail. So I'm going to show you on the map right here. So here's the museum that we fortunately got to take a bus to. And you can see that it looks right across here at the creek and right across at Mary Mounds Trail. What I noticed was how beautiful the scenery was. What did you notice?
The wide variety of displays here and the topics that they cover. So it ranged from logging and fishing, mining, town development, indigenous Tlingit information, really fabulous, well-done displays, artifacts, peculiar pieces of equipment. I remember one thing that we saw was a hand-driven air pump, air compressor for divers that was just this crazy, antiquated piece of equipment.
We looked at that and I thought, first of all, I don't want to go in the water, how cold it must be in Ketchikan. But then you're going in this crazy contraption and you're relying on these men that they have to turn this wheel so fast to make sure that you get oxygen. It seems.
So a really wide
Yes.
breadth and depth to this museum. So you get a really interesting overview of a lot of different subjects.
We've already had a pretty full day with lunch and nature and museums. You know what time it is now?
Ooh, time for a cookie.
No, you can have your cookie, but I'm going shopping.
Near the docks downtown is the Tongass Trading Company.
It is the biggest souvenir store that I saw in Alaska. It was huge. It had all sorts of clothing, it had magnets, it had just about anything that you could possibly want. And since for a lot of ships it's their last stop in Alaska, like it was for us on the way back to Vancouver, I'm sure they get a lot of business. I found this.
Yeah, I got a sweater. That was our day in Ketchikan, but Ketchikan has a lot more to offer, starting with excursions.
Yes, our number one favorite excursion in Alaska is in Ketchikan. We did this in 2024 with our family, and it was great. It's the Bering Sea Fisherman's Tour. So let's talk a little bit about the Bering Sea Fisherman Tour and why it's our number one for Alaska.
So the Bering Sea Fisherman's Tour takes place on a crab boat that was actually on the show Deadliest Catch. It's being converted to carry passengers. It's got some grandstand seating on it. And it goes out and you get to experience putting out crab pots and retrieving them, listening to fantastic stories from the crew. These guys were actually in the Bering Sea and lived all of this.
It's so authentic.
Yes.
Because, you know, these guys are like in their 50s and 60s, and they're like hanging off the side of the boat, dragging in these pots, and you just know that this is no joke. They really did do this work, which I think just makes it even more exciting. Like if it was just some young guy, I'd be like, you don't know what you're doing.
It's a little interactive too. There was a live well tank where you got to hold a variety of different critters.
And they did pull up a crab pot, and you got to hold the crab as well. That was
true.
neat.
And then one of the most memorable things about it was feeding the bald eagles. Right?
Yes. So they, like, normally you're not allowed to go feeding bald eagles, but they got permission from the tribe that the land where the bald eagles live are. And so they would throw out food, and the bald eagles were just like whoosh, like going right by you. Like,
yeah, grabbing it right out of the air, right next to the boat.
it
And
was,
just tons of them.
It was incredible. And this is the experience I teased at the beginning of the video.
It's something that you're never going to forget. And you can't wait to get home to tell all your friends and family about it.
And show the video of the eagles going right by.
Another experience that we've done that we recommend is the Great Alaskan Lumberjack Show.
This is a fun and easy and relatively inexpensive thing to do that's family friendly. So let me show you where it is, relationship to the visitor center on the map. So here's the visitor center. Again, this is where many ships dock, and the Great Alaskan Lumberjack Show is right here. So super easy to get to. And why would you recommend it?
I'd recommend it because, like you said, it's family friendly. It's an easy walk from the cruise ships. It's something that you can get the tickets the same day. I think they do the show rain or shine.
Yes, they do.
And it's a high energy show that's a lot of fun to watch.
So what it is you have a bunch of lumberjacks that do a variety of different lumberjacky things. So they climb poles, they use chainsaws, they throw axes.
Oh, and then they run on the logs too in the water.
And all of it is a team effort, meaning like they set up the audience. So one side is rooting for the Canadian team and the other side is rooting for the United States team. And so they get everybody all riled up as they go through and you're cheering on your team. So it really makes it for a fun thing to do on your day in Ketchikan.
We DIY'd our day in Ketchikan, but you don't have to. Ketchikan offers some fantastic once-in-a-lifetime type excursions. What's one of them?
So in addition to that Bering Sea Fisherman's Tour, which we've been on, so we can say, yes, that was a great one. What I want to do next time is to go to the Neets Bay Bear Watch. So you take a motor coach, you get on a boat, it takes you out through the water to the Tongass forest area where they have bear platforms. So they do not manage these bears. These bears are wild, but you get to go out on the platforms and you get to watch the bears. Now, the one thing about that excursion is I wouldn't go unless I was going during salmon run season.
Yes.
Because if it's not salmon run season, that's when you're going to see the bear. So late July and in September, those are the months that the salmon are running in Ketchikan. I would like to go to the Bear Watch. What would you like to do?
Misty Fjords Flightseeing. Going for a ride in a float plane, seeing fjords, waterfalls, and going over the gorgeous Tongass National Forest.
I can only imagine. But there's something to think about when you choose that excursion. It is definitely weather dependent, and we know that it rains a lot in Ketchikan. So our day that we described might be a good fit as a backup plan for Ketchikan, because the last thing you want to do is that excursion doesn't happen and now you don't have a plan. Enough with the cookies. It's time for some real food. Yes, excursions and activities are great, but I always like to eat in port, and the number one place that I will eat at every time is the
Alaska Fish House.
Yeah, so the Alaska Fish House has a nice menu with a variety of different things. They have fish tacos, they have fish and chips, they have crab. So we got the fish and chips with the 3 types of fish, with halibut and salmon and cod, with your favorite being
salmon
and mine being the halibut. Next time, I'm just going to get all halibut. So next time I'll get a halibut taco. That's what I'm hearing is really good. And they also have beer. And one of the things that's so nice about this is 2 things. Number one, where it's located. So it's located right on the water. Like that's where the float planes, I think, take off from. And then right next door is the Great Alaskan Lumberjack Show. So you could go to eat at the fish house before or after your show. Definitely worth a stop.
Next time we go to Ketchikan, first thing we're doing when we get off the ship is we're going to Jellyfish Donuts.
Yes, we're going back to Jellyfish Donuts. We went there last year, and I wish we would have gone again this year. They have delicious salmon donuts. I know you're thinking to yourself, salmon donuts.
Yeah.
That sounds so not tasty, but it's really good. They basically put it on like a yeast donut that's not sweet. And then how would you describe this salmon?
It was like a spread that they put on top. So it's not actually inside the donut, and it's more of just kind of a salmon, kind of semi-sweet topping to the donut.
And it is delish. Ketchikan rewards you for slowing down and exploring.
And every time we come back, we find something new.
To help you get the most out of your Alaska cruise and to make memories that will last a lifetime.
We put together an Alaska cruise port list that includes Skagway and Juneau.
It's right here. See you over there. Happy sailing.